We welcome the Taoiseach. Should we call Deputy Pearse Doherty, please?
Ceann Comhairle agus a tháineasta tá teaghlaí a leir géir céim costas maraltala agus tínta seo agus sáilear in go bhór airneach tínta ínta sáilear is an airneach císa agus thar géir céim tíocht den rialta seo glúin amachchas úineach títhe. Tá an gré císar in eisiigh €1,500 sa bhíon ní smó cís am dhéanana na méisiid ag díal cís in éirí agus tá takeíart a dhéharú tá sin féin ag máú Creidhas cena da iad sinna teag díal cís a choris cís mí arás in a good pócaí agus cosc díthe císa. Taoiseach, you're well aware at this stage that we're in the middle of an unprecedented cost of living crisis, and every day we're seeing costs of energy, fuel, childcare and housing go up. Workers and families across the strait are really struggling, and all the while your government continues to brush aside meaningful proposals that would make a major difference and put money back into people's pockets. And nowhere is the cost of living crisis more obvious than in the rental market. This is contributing to wider problems in the housing market. Young people can't afford to save for a deposit, house prices are out of control, and there's not enough social and affordable housing being built. An entire generation, because of your policies, is locked into unaffordable rental market and locked out of ever being able to afford their own home. And thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of people, of working people in their late 40s and 50s are living in the private rental sector, and they're frightened that they have no way out of that rental market and face a future of pension poverty because of runaway rents. Now, this housing failure is robbing our people of their hopes, of their dreams for the future. Now, I know you believe that landlords should be prioritised and their incomes are more important than renters being able to live a decent life. You said as much to the media in August. You said it would be a good idea to introduce a tax cut for landlords, despite the fact that there is little evidence to suggest that such measures will address the causes of the crisis. But you did, in fairness, Taoiseach, concede that if you did so, you would do something for renters also. And they are the people that need to be prioritised, Taoiseach, the renters. Too often we talk about rents in terms of percentage increases that we've seen year after year. But if we get down to the hard cash of it, the average new rent in this state is now just below €1,500 per month, with rents in Dublin now over €2,000. Because of runaway rents, Taoiseach, a new renter will fork out €1,476 more this year to their landlord than they would have last year. Renters need relief. And as you know, Sinn Féin have been calling on your government year after year to provide support for renters. We have proposed for years a refundable tax credit that would put 1 month's rent back into renters' pockets, reducing their rental costs and lifting some of the burden from them. Now, Taoiseach, that would make a real difference to so many people. Of course, any support like this must make a difference to them, must make a difference to the renters that are hard-pressed, and not be pocketed by the landlords through further rent hikes. And that is why this measure needs to be accompanied by a ban on rent increases. Taoiseach, renters are being fleeced. Runaway rents need to stop. Renters can be supported and runaway rents can be tackled. But the choice is yours. It is a choice of your government. The budget is just days away. So I ask you on behalf of renters right across the state who are feeling so much pressure now, who have seen their rents go up year after year without support or action from this government, will you now, belatedly at this final hour, adopt Sinn Féin's plan to support renters, to put 1 month's rent back into renters' pockets and to ban further rent increases, to reduce rents, Taoiseach, and to freeze them?
Thanks, Deputy, and thank you for raising what is a very important issue, the very high cost of rent in Ireland, which is out of kilter and disproportionate when compared with our peer countries, and I absolutely acknowledge that. What you have said in terms of what I've said in the past, of course, is not the case. I've never said that landlords should be prioritised. Little like your leader, Deputy, you wouldn't win any truth-telling contests. I didn't say that. It's at best a misrepresentation and perhaps a fabrication, and I hope you'll acknowledge that in your further response. What I am interested in talking about, Deputy, is solutions, and there are a number of solutions to the housing crisis that we now face, and a number of things that we can do to help renters. Probably the most important thing and the most significant thing is increasing and ramping up the amount of social housing that we have in Ireland, and as you'll know, we're probably going to break records in terms of the number of new social houses provided in Ireland this year, getting up to the kind of figures we haven't seen since the 1970s, if not before. And social housing benefits everyone. It takes people off the housing list and also frees up private accommodation for other people to rent and other people to buy, thus exerting downward pressure on rents and on property prices. And that's why we're investing so much in new social housing, and we're going to continue to do so in the years ahead. The other area is cost rental, a programme started by Minister Murphy under the last government, but is now for real. And we see the huge demand for cost rental and how interested people are in that form of public housing. And we need to see that scaled up, and scaled up as much as is humanly possible, in my view, over the next couple of years. And we have Help to Buy, a programme that has helped over 30,000 young people, young couples, to buy their first home, often leaving rental accommodation, freeing that up for others, something that your party, wrongly in my view, opposes. And I hope in the context of your alternative budget, you'll consider dropping your opposition to Help to Buy. It's the most important thing that we can do for first-time buyers at the moment, saying to a first-time buyer that we're not going to give you the 30,000 back to help with your deposit. We're going to give you 1,000, 1,500 euros instead to help with your rent. That's not a good deal to me. That's what Sinn Féin would do. They take the 30,000 euros away from the first-time buyers, give you 1,500 a year to help with your rent. That's not a good deal, and I hope you'll drop your opposition to Help to Buy. We also have the rent pressure zones, which, as you know, for tens of thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands of people, have meant that rent increases have been 2% or lower. And that doesn't show up in things like the Daft Index, for example, as you know, but has been of a great relief to a lot of people who are renting in this city and indeed in this country. It has had negative consequences too, and probably has had a negative impact on supply, and perhaps driven up rents when it comes to new tenancies. And that's something that we need to be concerned about. In terms of budget measures and your suggestion of a credit for renters, that is a budget matter, and it wouldn't be appropriate for me today to comment on decisions that will be announced by the Minister of Finance and the Minister for Public Expenditure next week. But as is the case with all proposals, they will be considered and a decision will be made by government in due course.
See, we've been having this conversation now for years, and maybe at some stage the penny might drop, because every year we see the statistics going all in the wrong direction. So when rents are going up for new rents at 9.2% in a year, or house prices are going up by 14%, how far does rents have to go before you start to realise actually your policies are actually contributing to this problem in the first instance? You talk about social housing, you're going to not meet your own targets. You talk about cost rental, you're only delivering 300, you aren't meeting those targets either. And these are on low targets that are way inadequate to what is needed. So we put forward proposal year after year to you that will actually help renters. And get this, renters are paying nearly €1,500 more than they would have last year. And before that, they were paying more than they would have the year before, and the year before, and the year before. There's so many people that are locked into a situation now where they don't know how they're going to get out of it. Because the other arm of your policies is that house prices are being pushed up beyond Celtic Tiger peak. So there's a very simple proposal here that we've been calling on you to do, which is a refundable tax credit equivalent to a month's rent, up to €1,500, that would put that money back into renters' pockets and to ban rent increases for the next 3 years. Is that something that you will entertain? Because you have been public saying that you want cuts for landlords.
Thanks, Deputy. The only thing I've said about landlords, and I stand over it, and I've made it very, very clear, is that if there are any tax concessions for landlords in the budget, well then there should also be tax concessions for renters. That's what I said, that's what I meant, and I stand over that comment. If there are concessions for landlords in the budget, there should also be tax concessions for renters. That's what I said, and I stand over it. In relation to any specific decisions, they're a matter for budget day and not for today. There will be meetings today and all over the weekend to finalise the budget package. But what I would say to you, Deputy, and it's important that we're frank and honest with people about what's happening in our country and what's happening around the world. There are bigger trends at play here, not least demographics, not least the cost of building new housing. And north of the border, where your party has been in office now for a very long time, house prices have also gone up. They've gone up by 20% in 2 years, and rents are rising as well. And that's a place where there's a Sinn Féin housing minister and a Sinn Féin finance minister. It'd be very easy for me to repeat the kind of charges you make against us.
Time is up,
that when things happen, it's always the government's fault. Is it not your fault in Northern Ireland, therefore, as well?